There was a man who mastered the sword, the brush and wartime strategy, and he never had a fixed master to teach him any of the three. Today, you will discover the system he used and understand how you can apply this system to learn and master any skill. Have you ever counted how many skills you started studying and abandoned throughout your life? A language course, a musical instrument, the gym, programming, drawing. Almost everyone starts with absolute enthusiasm, swearing that this time the result will be different. 3 weeks later, the study material is gathering dust in a forgotten browser tab. Most people cannot maintain consistency for long, mainly because they can't see the results of their own effort. Because of this, people abandon their plans. Now try to imagine a man who in feudal Japan reached the pinnacle in completely distinct areas. Swordplay, painting, sculpting, military strategy. Miyamoto Musashi won more than 60 duels without suffering a single defeat throughout his entire life. And in the intervals between combats, produced paintings so rich that they are exhibited in museums 400 years later. How did someone without a traditional school, without a permanent teacher, and without constant validation manage to achieve this level of excellence in everything he set out to do? The answer to that question lies in a three-layered system. He never called it a method because in his worldview, it was simply the correct way to live. And the most impressive aspect of this model is that it works exactly the same way today. Except there is a gear that most people ignore, and it is precisely this that separates the masters from those who merely accumulate unfinished courses and knowledge. Before understanding how this structure works, subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment down below. What skill do you want to master in the next 12 months? Keep this answer in mind, as it will be fundamental until the end of the video. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The problem with no name. Our journey begins with Maxwell. At 27, he considered himself a smart and curious guy, but he carried a frustrating track record of nearly 10 projects started and never finished. On the guitar, he got stuck. In languages, he downloaded 3 different apps and didn't get past the second week of use. In drawing, all that remained was a notebook with a single scribbled page. The cycle repeated itself identically. Total excitement on the first weekend, the impact of the first real barrier in the second week, and ready-made excuses by the third. I just don't have a knack for this. Things are too busy right now. Or, I'll get back to it when I'm more free. The problem is Maxwell never got back to it. He tried everything. Goal spreadsheets, habit apps, and 30-day social media challenges. Nothing worked because a lack of information was never Maxwell's true obstacle. He had all the necessary knowledge, but he ran into an invisible problem that most of us ignore. Everything changed when he read about a Japanese swordsman who, at 13 years old, entered a duel against a trained warrior with no teacher, no formal school, and no guarantee of survival, and came out victorious. Maxwell was intrigued. How does someone without access to a conventional teaching structure reach this level, and not just in combat, but in practically every art he chose to master? The answer he found completely transformed his way of learning any subject, and he decided to test this discovery firsthand, setting a clear deadline: 12 months to master a real skill from scratch. Chapter 2. The Boy Who Didn't Wait. Maxwell discovered that this legendary warrior was Miyamoto Musashi. The samurai's first combat took place in 1596 against a warrior named Arima Kihei, who had posted a sign in town challenging any resident to a contest. Musashi, at only 13 years old, went there and tore the sign down. He didn't have a traditional school to back his name, nor a master to attest if he was truly ready. He carried only a wooden staff and the firm resolve to act with the resources he had at hand, instead of waiting for the ideal circumstances. The Japanese call this posture dokugaku, the learning that doesn't ask for permission. Dokugaku means self-education, studying on one's own. However, this is not just an expression, it is an attitude. The attitude of taking initiative and proving oneself on your own. Musashi spent his life under this guideline, observing others' techniques, testing every movement in combat, and discarding everything that did not withstand the test of reality. The security of feeling ready is an illusion that theoretical study cannot generate. This security is only built on the battlefield through real exposure. Determined to apply Dokugaku, Maxwell chose his goal: music production. His knowledge in the area was minimal. He mastered only 3 chords, used free software, and had 0 practical experience. Instead of buying yet another long course, he took an uncomfortable step. He posted his first composition, unfinished and visibly amateur, on a public forum of experienced producers, asking for honest feedback. The initial reviews were harsh. One user commented that the mix was too simple to be published, while another pointed out 3 basic technical flaws that Maxwell didn't even know existed. And it was precisely that night that he learned more than in 3 months of watching generic tutorials. From then on, he had a real and specific problem to solve instead of just passively consuming theory. However, in the 3rd week of testing, Maxwell hit an unexpected barrier. He was exposing himself, gathering opinions and absorbing criticism, but he realized he kept making the same basic mistakes. Week after week, the same points appeared in the comments. The barrier wasn't a lack of courage to expose himself. The obstacle was something else, and the answer lay in a part of Musashi's biography that most superficial analyses tend to ignore. Chapter 3. The Sword Without the Pen. In 1612, Musashi faced his most famous combat on Ganryu Island against Sasaki Kojiro, a rival feared for his skill with an exceptionally long blade. Musashi arrived late to the site to unnerve his opponent. During the boat crossing, he carved a wooden oar slightly larger than Kojiro's weapon, neutralizing the opponent's reach advantage before the fight even began. The duel was decided with a single, precise blow. Musashi's victory was the result of pure strategic calculation, far beyond his physical reflexes. And here lies the crucial detail that Maxwell had been ignoring. Musashi did not limit his mind to the sword. In times of peace, he dedicated himself to painting. His ink on paper works, such as the famous depiction of the shrike on a dead branch, are admired to this day for the millimetric precision of every stroke. Musashi made it clear in his writings that the notions of space, time, and precision he applied in art were the same he used in combat. The pen refined the sword. The sword gave life to the pen. This concept is known as Bunu Riodo, the twofold path. This was exactly the gear missing from Maxwell's routine. He was focused on practical exposure, bu, but neglected the structured study of the flaws he committed, bun. He received the criticism, felt the discomfort of the mistake, and the next day he was already trying to produce a new song without first isolating and studying the pointed technical problem in detail. Maxwell reorganized his routine. Each practical production session, bu, was now preceded by a block dedicated to focused study, bun. Instead of consuming generic content, he began to surgically dissect the flaw pointed out by the feedback. If mixing bass was the problem, that session would be dedicated solely to understanding bass, sound physics, technical references, and practical adjustments before starting a new creation. Studies on the acquisition of complex skills point out that this structured alternation is what defines the transition from naive practice to deliberate practice. Repeating an activity continuously, without segmenting the specific points that present flaws, causes learning to quickly hit a ceiling. The brain needs well-mapped and isolated error signals to efficiently refine technical execution. Chapter 4. The Cave. With the changes in his routine, Maxwell's evolution took off. By the second month of the project, the level of his compositions was completely different, and the producers' forum began to consistently praise his technical progress. But around the 4th month, a silent obstacle emerged. Deciding to listen to his first creations out of curiosity, Maxwell identified small, basic structural flaws that he believed he had overcome at the beginning of the year. They were foundational problems, camouflaged by more advanced techniques he had recently learned. This diagnosis led him to the third and most intriguing chapter of Musashi's life. Around 1643, already close to 60 years old and renowned as Japan's greatest warrior, Musashi took a surprising step. He retired to the Reigando cave in the mountains and lived in complete isolation. He wasn't seeking to develop new fighting techniques, The goal was to write the Gorin no Sho, the Book of Five Rings, structuring everything he had learned over decades of combat, reducing his vast knowledge to its most essential fundamentals. Shortly before passing away, he would still write the Dokugaku, a compilation of 21 precepts on discipline and detachment. This principle that Musashi applied in those days is keiko. Although frequently translated merely as training, its true meaning lies in rescuing the old to understand the present. True training consists of periodically returning to the bases, seeing new layers of depth in what you thought you had already mastered. Musashi needed to revisit everything he had learned throughout his entire life, so that he could summarize it into just 2 books. So Musashi had to apply the principle of keiko in its purest form. Maxwell began to set aside 2 days every 6 weeks to apply this concept. He would halt complex projects and restart an extremely simple production from absolute scratch, focusing all his attention on every basic detail. At the end of the exercise, he tried to explain out loud as if he were teaching a beginner every technical decision he made. Whenever he encountered difficulties explaining a simple point, he realized he needed to better consolidate that foundation. This period was his own personal retreat, a strategic pause to structure the knowledge acquired before trying to climb the next technical step. Chapter 5. The Test. In the 8th month of the project, rigorously following the 3 stages of the system, active exposure, dokugaku, the balance between theory and practice, bunbu Riodo, and the constant return to the bases, keiko, Maxwell's life took a sharp turn. He was laid off. The music production sessions, which were previously untouchable, became the last priority of the day, squeezed amidst the job hunt and financial anxiety. It is in this scenario of instability that most people give up, because maintaining consistency under ideal conditions is easy. The real challenge arises when the routine collapses. Musashi experienced similar instabilities throughout his trajectory. During periods of political transition in Japan, he lost the patronage of feudal lords and lived as a ronin, a masterless samurai, constantly migrating with no guarantees of shelter or sustenance. Even so, his pursuit of self-improvement never ceased. His practice remained firm simply because he never conditioned his discipline on the existence of perfect circumstances. Psychologists who study the maintenance of habits under stress explain that true consistency lies in performing the smallest viable version of a behavior when the full plan becomes impossible. Maintaining this frequency, even if reduced, preserves the practitioner's identity and connection to the activity, preventing the habit from being lost during periods of crisis. Chapter 6. The Transformation. With no time for his usual blocks of study and creation, Maxwell adapted his system to just 20 minutes a day. He used this brief period to fine-tune a track or study a single technical concept, alternating days. They weren't highly productive sessions in the classic sense, but they kept the momentum of active learning alive. History did not immortalize Musashi for his natural birth talent, but rather for the relentless consistency with which he refined his technique over 4 decades of combats, political conflicts, and adversities. It was this continuous focus, and not an isolated genius, that brought him to a technical level that no other warrior of his time could achieve. In the 12th month, Maxwell finalized and released a full production on his professional profile. Compared to the amateur draft he had published at the beginning of the year, the technical evolution was crystal clear. His forum friends were impressed by the speed of his progress, but the truth is there was no magic or shortcut. It was the direct result of a 3-part system executed with patience over the course of a year. Musashi ended his journey in a similar way, with no need to prove his worth to anyone else. In his final years, he stepped away from sword combats and dedicated himself almost exclusively to painting and writing, focused on clearly transmitting the lessons he accumulated on his path. Mastering a new skill in 12 months doesn't mean reaching the absolute pinnacle of human knowledge. After all, it took Musashi decades to write his mature works. The great benefit of applying dokugaku, bunbu Riodo, and keiko during this period is overcoming initial inertia, going from absolute zero to building a solid, real competence tested by the market. And that alone puts you ahead of the vast majority of people who give up learning something new in the first few weeks. Maxwell's major differentiator had nothing to do with motivation, something he already had plenty of at the beginning of the year. The turning point happened when he changed the structure of his learning. He stopped waiting for the ideal moment to expose himself, balanced his moments of study and real practice, and had the humility to return to the bases to consolidate his knowledge before trying to take bigger steps. Think again about the skill you commented on at the beginning of the video. Answer honestly, have you put your learning to a test or real feedback this week, or are you still waiting for the day when you will feel totally ready? Are your moments of theoretical study accompanied by an equivalent amount of practice, or is theory just piling up in your mind? And how long has it been since you revisited the simplest fundamentals of what you are trying to master? Far from offering miraculous shortcuts, Musashi left us a practical, demanding, and perfectly replicable path for anyone willing to walk with discipline. 12 months are more than enough for you to prove this progress in your own life. If this content opened your mind to a new way of learning, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to follow the next videos on Eastern philosophy applied to daily life. Comment down below, which of the 3 stages of this system, Dokugaku, Bunbu Riodo, or Keiko, do you need to put into practice the most today? And if you want to keep evolving, click on the video suggested in the card appearing on the screen right now. I'm sure this content will also help you achieve your best version. See you on the next journey. And remember, be present, walk with honor, follow the path.